Merry Christmas and welcome back to the main stage. Yes, I know it's been a while since I last uploaded. If I'm honest, I've just been taking a bit more time to be kind of a little bit more active on the TikTok and try build up a following over there. Essentially, the TikTok's going to be for kind of shorter, quick-fire style stuff like one-off album reviews or just discussing popular news topics. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, head over there and give us a follow. However, in terms of longer form stuff like the vlogs and more sit-down formal videos just like this, that's going to stay over here on the YouTube. So make sure to subscribe over here as well. Top 10 songs of the year. This has been a great year for music in my opinion. Basically every single artist I care about in any capacity has dropped at least something. So to narrow it down to just 10 tracks was super difficult this year. There were tracks back in like May, June time that I was convinced would stay on this list but got pushed out towards the end of the year. There was so much competition this year, but I've managed to figure out my 10 final picks. So without further ado, Number 10 was a very late pick from me, and not because it came out towards the end, more so just because it took me a minute to come around to it. I have a strange relationship with Wunderhorse as a band. I love their first record, and I actually love their second even more. I'm fully aware and on board with the idea that Wunderhorse are objectively a good band. But for some reason, I'm just not fully convinced. It doesn't even really make sense. But, like, I'm just not entirely there with all these people saying that they're, like, the saviors of rock, best band to come out of the decade and all that kind of stuff. I think it's a bit of a stretch, if I'm honest. However, I just can't ignore this song here, Aeroplane. This is entirely a personal choice. I don't know if it's like common choice for Wunderhorse fans, but this song just really speaks to me. Like I said, it's very personal pick, but on an objective level, I still think the performances here are sensational. Jacob Slater sounds stunning, and in the second half of the tune, there's this like long guitar solo. It's just so well placed. It sounds incredible. Genuinely just a really stunning track that I can't get over, and I just couldn't leave it off this list. In the number 9 spot was a tune that really surprised me from 21 Pilots. It was Overcompensate. So I've never been massive on 21 Pilots. I've always thought they had the capacity to be very good, and most of that potential is kind of formulated on Trench. But on the other hand, I also think 21 Pilots have the capacity to be just extremely cringe. There isn't really an in-between with them. I'm either super impressed or just like super cringed out. And Overcompensate, luckily, the lead single from Clancy, had a real grip on me when it dropped. Remember when it came out, I was obsessed with this song. And there's one single moment in this song that gives it AAA access to this list. Inject that shit into my veins. That entire song could just completely be obsolete because of that fill. It could be the worst shit I've ever heard, but that fill would carry it onto this list regardless. I love this song. Production sounds so clean. The rap flows sound really natural and just like fun. And yeah, it's just a very solid lead single that I found myself coming back to a lot. I would not be surprised to find this in my Spotify rap this year. In at number 8, I've got Dua Lipa. Had to do it to him. Her album this year was a disappointment, if I'm honest, but it still occasionally had the sauce, and Illusion was a true sauce moment from this record. This was the third single from this record, and you know, Houdini was the first and it had me excited. Training Season I wasn't really massive on, but then this drops as number 3. And on God, I am in love with this song. It's so infectious. Like, as much as this record didn't really deliver, I will say the production throughout is always absolutely box office. Illusion is just proper dance floor shit, and I think dance floor shit is where Dua Lipa's at her best. The reason I think this album flopped was because she didn't really lean into dance floor shit, whereas Future Nostalgia was entirely dance floor shit. Hence why I think that did so well. But no, Illusion might be my favourite Dua song ever. Like, that instrumental is so catchy. There's got to be crack in this song. Keeping to the theme of great songs from disappointing albums, we have Kasabian in the number 7 spot with Coming Back to Me Good. Kasabian have to be the least consistent band on the planet right now. They seem to just drop shitter after shitter, and then occasionally just like one of the best songs you'll ever hear, just as if it's nothing, and then they'll just go back to releasing shitters. Their album this year is exactly that. It's pure soulless shit. But in the midst of all that drivel, you get this song, which is like one of my songs of the summer and is basically universally agreed to be like the best Kasabian tune in years. And surprise, surprise, it sounds more like Serge's solo record than a Kasabian tune. No wonder it's better than most of a Kasabian tunes. It's actually just bizarre how good this track is compared to everything else coming out around it. Like, it's another infectious little summer tune, this. It's just so perfectly put together. There's a bit of a theme with this list. There's a few songs hit this year that were just kind of pure bliss. They sounded like strolling through a field on a hot summer's day with a glass bottle of Coke, sniffing the daisies, and this is very much one of those songs. Like I said, it's just bliss. In at number 6, I've got Sabrina Carpenter with Dumb and Poetic.
You're so dumb and poetic. It's just...
Look, there are a few songs from Short and Sweet that could have made this list, but this was really the one that caught me off guard and kind of just stopped me in my tracks. I just simply wasn't expecting to get into this territory with a Sabrina Carpenter album. I think Sabrina Carpenter is kind of a special artist. She really is. There are very few artists on the level that she's on that can communicate so effectively in a way that's so relatable to their audience, if that makes any sense. That ability is what's leading to her just being an absolute superstar right now. Not many artists can put themselves on the level of their audience and are that self-aware, especially not on that grand of a scale. Like, everything this girl touches turns to gold. Everyone just seems to be absolutely in love with her and in 100% agreement with everything she says or does, and I think that's kind of a testament to her songwriting in some places. And I think Dumb and Poetic from her album really kind of hits that point home. It's a track that kind of very much depends on you understanding its references, but it's not done in some like snobby way to try and be cynical or to gatekeep. It manages to be really sincere whilst touching on kind of cliches and references that anyone my age will understand, and they'll just resent this kind of guy that she's talking about. It's just a masterclass at getting on the same level as the audience, and not only that, but the performance on this track from Sabrina is just incredible. Like I said, this was one that really caught me off guard. Next up at number 5 is a track that I'm going to talk about in a little bit more depth in another video I've got coming up soon, so stick around for that. But this song comes from Kendrick Lamar. Euphoria was the track that sent this Kendrick-Drake beef into the stratosphere this year, and rightfully so.
Let me say I'm the biggest hater. I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk. I hate the way that you dress.
This is easily the best diss track I've ever heard. Like, it's genuinely a masterclass in the art of war and just destroying an opponent, breaking them down completely. Every single line is a shot. Every single line has something behind it that you can dissect and, like, is a reference to something. On top of that, this whole track just feels completely effortless from Kendrick. At the time, the entire internet was just kind of happy to believe that this still wasn't him on 100%, which is insane. Like I said, I'm going to talk about this in much more detail in a video I've got coming up next week, so stay tuned for that. But for now, it's on to number 4. Number 4 is kind of another example of glass bottle of Coke in field sniffing daisies core. Soft Play, formerly known as Slaves, dropped their long-awaited comeback album this year, and one of the cuts, Everything and Nothing, had me in an absolute chokehold. No pun intended. This song is just absolutely stunning, and there's something about the juxtaposition between like the messy screamed vocals over this extremely pretty and well put together instrumental that's just absolutely gut-wrenching when it all comes together. Lyrically, it is heartbreaking as it recounts trying to move on and process the death of a loved one or someone close, something this band are all too familiar with in real life. The song was just really unexpected from a band like Soft Play, but I'm so glad it exists. And like, you know how in certain songs there's maybe like one instrument that comes in at just the perfect time and it does the perfect thing and it sounds perfect and it just sends you into this state that it's just like, yes. There were a few of those moments this year. The guitar line in Starburster by Fontaines was one of them for me, but the fiddle solo towards the end of this track, very much one of those. It is absolutely gorgeous. Now we've arrived in top 3 territory. We've had some good tunes as well so far, so best believe this top 3 has the sauce. Number 3 comes from Bring Me the Horizon. Bring Me dropped this year, and everything leading up to this album suggested that it would be utter trash, but somehow they managed to put out one of the most entertaining, well-constructed projects of the year, and the track that stood out to me as well as most people, from what I remember about the initial reaction to this record, was Top 10 Statues That Cried Blood. For me, I think what's so special about this track is just how unspecial it is. Like, it's not trying to be this big grand thing or do anything particularly new. It's just simply an exercise in making good, heavy pop punk. And it succeeds in every metric. Holly Sykes' vocal performance here is to die for. The guy is genuinely so talented with the way he can shift between singing and screaming to the point where he essentially does both at the same time whilst managing to make that sound good is tremendous, and I think that's not applauded enough. I think we really need to give the guy a bit more credit. On top of that, you've got the rest of the band just on form, just absolutely going to town for the entirety of this. Another big thing for me is just like I'm a sucker for a melody, and the melody in that chorus, that's what really gets me here. There's just something so perfect about it, and yeah, it just gets me going, man. I love this song so much. For the number 2 spot, I've gone a bit niche with it. This was a song I put onto by Tom, who you might have saw in the Leeds Fest vlog this year, but it's a tune by a band called Bashed. B-A-S-H-T full stop. The song is called White Horses, and holy fucking shit, it is incredible. So I actually delved into this band's catalogue, and there isn't a lot, but pretty much every song is just outrageously good, and they're the sort of band that you can tell is just only going to get better. I think when they get to the level of having really consistent production, they might actually just become the best band in the world of all time. I love this song so much. The way it builds up to that big sort of climax towards the end with like the guitarist and the drummer just firing on all cylinders whilst the lead singer belts out that vocal. Like, this is a band that has the sauce. Watch out for these guys. Bashed. Top band. So here we are. All that's left is my number 1 pick, but before we do that, Mr. Mainstage has to pay the bills. If you're enjoying this video and you've agreed with any of these picks, please make sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe. I have a few videos like this coming over the next week or so. Usually on the channel we stick to long form festival gigs and vlogs, which I'm planning to try and really crack down on in 2025, because I just love making vlogs. Like, they're so easy to make because the content kind of writes itself. As well as that, we often sit down just like this and chat and speculate about music and festivals. It's all just stuff that you're going to care about if you like music, if you like festivals. I've also been trying to be super active on TikTok, so if you like anything I'm doing over here and you want to see more short form, quick fire stuff that's a bit more accessible, I'm going to drop a link to the TikTok in the bio. I'm sure you all already have an idea of where this is going. Last time Fontaines DC released an album, 2 tracks from that record made it onto the 2022 edition of this list. Those 2 tracks were basically universally expected to make that list by everyone watching that video, so it's no surprise that the Fontaines track that's taken the number 1 slot in this video is also probably the track you already expected to make the number 1 slot here. Favourite was the second single from Fontaines' new album Romance, and Jesus Christ.
It's and far faces rearranged. You would see beauty give the way to something strange. It's been
Immediately, this is another case of glass bottle of Coke in field sniffing Daisy's core, and it might actually be the most glass bottle of Coke in field sniffing Daisy's core example of any of the glass bottle of Coke in field sniffing Daisy's core tracks ever made. The term glass bottle of Coke in field sniffing Daisy's core was actually invented for this song. This is just absolute bliss once again, and it's another track that I wasn't expecting from a band like Fontaines DC. You know, they're not exactly the most upbeat, happy-go-lucky band, so to drop a song like this that is just pure contentment felt like a fever dream at the time. And look, I don't know what kind of crack they've put into this song, but I actually can't get over how good it is. That song has just been in my constant core rotation since like June or July or whenever that single dropped. I can't get over how good it is. Like, Skinty Fear's best moments were ridiculously good, and somehow this song tops even those. You were my favorite for a long time. It's just perfect. It's one of those lines, just like back to the graft again, that's just so insanely quotable, and it'll never leave me. I genuinely feel grateful to have been around to witness the release of this song, because it's actually a perfect song. No notes. So there it is. There's my top 10 songs of 2024. Hopefully you at least somewhat agreed with some of these picks, but let me know down in the comments what would make your list. That's all from me for now, but I'll be back very soon to talk about some music that's not so good.